Good morning. My hair looks a little crazy today, sorry. Hi, welcome to Web of Stories. My name is Melinda and I'm here with my weekly wrap up. I had not much to report on my week because I got a stomach bug yesterday, so I was out. It's just been one thing after another, but I am behind in everything, but I did want to get this done. My update. So yeah, that's what's going on in my life. I am feeling better now. I don't know if I caught it from my kids or not. A couple weeks ago they were sick, but that's because they ate their weight in Pringles on Super Bowl Sunday. And then my daughter's been having some issues, but I think hers are actually, we think she might be lactose intolerant. So that might be what her issue is. So I don't know if I caught this from then or not, but who knows? That's the way it is. But I am feeling much better today. Thank goodness. So, couple of housekeeping things. I forgot to mention, I think in my last wrap up, that there have been people who expressed a desire to do a read along of Searching for Sunday by Rachel Held Evans. There's someone parked in front of my house and I don't know why. Sorry, squirrel. If so, let me know. I'd like to start one using a Voxer group on March 2nd, so please let me know. I have at least one person who's contacted me and I haven't had a chance to get back to her, but I'm going to start a group for a Voxer group to do the Agnes Grey by Anne Bronte read along in March, and I will link my March on the Moors video down below so you can see that. And I did a March on the Moors content this week with some Bronte options. And in case you're wondering, yes, I did get Anne Bronte Nightwalker. I did buy it. It was $3.99 on Amazon. I think that's the only place you can get it, but I did get it. It's the first in the series, but it's the only book that's come out. So I don't know what's going on with that, but I plan to read that next month. So yes. So also, if you don't follow Community tab, or you don't follow me on Instagram or Facebook, I have been doing a little thing for Black History Month. So every weekday in February, I have been sharing a book recommendation for Black History Month because Heritage Months for non-white folks, non-straight white folks are under attack. So I'm trying to lift those up in any way that I can. But that is still going on. I believe I should have all of the recommendations on my community tab, or you can find me on Instagram or Facebook. Everything is down below if you want to see what those were. Anyhow, this week, I finished 4 books this week. And I'm going to do them out of order because the first book I finished, I actually have a lot to say about. So we're going to put that one last. And I'm going to actually start with the 2 that I have here. So first, I finished Sula, my very first Toni Morrison book. As you can see, this is a library copy. I wish it weren't because this is a book I know I'm going to be reading again sometime. There's so much here to think and really tear apart in your mind and really ponder. But I have to take this back to the library. So I at some point, I will add this to my list of books to pick up at used bookstores if I find it. But definitely a 4-star book. I would have given it a 5-star book, except I don't feel I got everything out of it. I think that subsequent reads are going to give me so much more. This is a story of a friendship between 2 young women, Nell. Yes, I always check. There's like Helen and Nell and Sula. And definitely there's a frenemy element there a little bit. Characters are very complex. This is not, Toni Morrison's not trying to make you like anybody in this book, but it's just so wonderful. And as I said, this is my the first Toni Morrison I've ever read. I found it pretty readable. I do know some of her books can be very tough. I have been warned about Beloved, although I have seen the movie, so I know the story of Beloved, but I thought this one was fairly accessible, but as I said, I still need to read it again and again and again. So I think what I will do is I will probably read this again next February. Hopefully by then I will have my own copy. So there you go. But yeah, definitely enjoyed that. And speaking of rereads, I finished my reread of Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West by Gregory Maguire. And I'm going to preface this with what I just always preface when I talk about the book, is this and the movie Wicked, movie/musical Wicked, are two completely different things. There are some characters that have the same names. If you are an Agatha Christie reader and you've read Halloween Party and you've seen A Haunting in Venice, which is supposedly based on Halloween Party, it's like that. It's like, those are two completely different things. So yes. So if you have only seen the movie, but you want to read the book, just keep that in mind. I'm not going to steer you away from the book at all, because I do actually really love this book. This was a 5-star book the first time I read it. Also, I will say, not for kids at all. No. Don't give this to your children. It's very much an adult book. So as I said, this was a 5-star book for me, and the first time I read it. And to set the stage a little bit, so this came out 30 years ago, and I read it right after it came out, and it was the first time I had read a book that had retold something from the viewpoint. It might have been the second time, because I think that this is not his first book. I think he wrote the Confessions of an Ugly Stepsister first. I think I read that one first. But anyway, those are the first times I'd read like a retelling where someone took a character from fiction and retold the story from their point of view, and that blew my mind. And it's still fantastic. This is sort of the start of that whole thing. So I would definitely recommend it for that. I gave it a 4 this time, but still that's sort of a qualified 4. Part of it, I think, is because the novelty of that whole thing of retelling a story from a side character's point of view has kind of worn off, because it's been done a lot in the last 30 years. The other thing is, and this is maybe not fair that I gave it a 4 instead of a 5, but this is a very political book, so it hits certain ways reading it right now. And so while it was a 5 before and it's a 4 here, I'm still going to consider this a 5-star book, just because the world impacted my reading of it a little bit. That being said, this is a good time to be reading this book, because you will definitely think about things. So yeah, that was Wicked. So those are my 2 that I have in print. And now I have 2 that I don't have in print. The first is an audiobook. And I'm not going to say too much about it. It is, let me get the whole title here. The Black Utopians, Searching for Paradise and the Promised Land in America, by Robertson. The reason I'm not going to say too much about this is I am not doing this round of the BookTube prize. I learned last year that the first round isn't a good round for me because of spring break. I don't get the full time to read all the books. So I just am going to start in the second round. But however, I learned about this book from the BookTube prize list. So if I get this book coming down the way, I need to kind of keep it for there. So I'm not going to say much about this other than I enjoyed it. I gave it a 3. There you go. Now let's get to the one that I have a lot to say about, because folks, I had my first 1-star of the year. Now, if you don't know what my rating method is, 5 stars, 5 is one of my all-time favorite books. 4, I would highly recommend this book. It was a great book, highly recommend it. 3, now this is clear because some people, 3s are very contentious, but 3, I liked this book. I would recommend it. I may not recommend it widely, or I might recommend it with caveats, but I still liked it. Wasn't perfect, I still liked it, and I would still recommend it. 2, I would not recommend this book. 1, I wish I had DNF'd this book. And I just had my first 1-star of the year. Hopefully my only 1-star of the year, because I wish I would have DNF'd it means I did not DNF it. In my defense, the reason I didn't DNF this is when I really got the urge to DNF it, I was at like 94%. So anyway, this book is When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. And I do feel like I need to explain a couple things. There are some things I think are problematic, not problematic with the book, like content-wise, but structure-wise, that I think that are definite detractions. But most of that 1-star is more about me than the book. So let me go through what kind of my issues with this book were, just generally. I loved the premise of this book. The premise is it's a neighborhood in Brooklyn that was traditionally, or at least in the recent past, has been an African-American neighborhood, and now it's being gentrified. And there's a lot of conflict there, and it turns into a domestic thriller. That sounds fascinating. I had no problem with that. It does, however, fall into the girl trope, you know, unreliable narrator. Okay. I do have feelings about that, but setting those aside, I didn't feel that worked especially well here because we never really knew why she was so unreliable. Like, it was hinted at and you kind of you knew there was some kind of backstory, but you never got it. So I was like, what is going on here? And there were a lot of things that were brought up and then just sort of dropped that were like, whoa, what is going on there? And for the sake of not spoiling anything, I'm just going to say there was something, if you've read the book, you know what I'm talking about, that involved sunflowers. And it was mentioned and then it was completely dropped. And I was like, but I need to know, like, we need to know what happened there. And it just wasn't. So there are those things. Oh, the other one, and I do think this is valid. I know Alyssa Cole is a romance writer, and I have read some of her romance and have liked it. I think she's a very good writer. This book, so I understand her being a romance writer and like stepping into the domestic thriller realm. People are still going to expect a romantic element. I understand that, and it was there. However, I do think that was detrimental to the story. I think the story would have been more impactful without the romantic element. Just saying, I think that really was not a good move on the part. And I understand she probably didn't have a choice. She had to put it in there. That's what people expect from her. I get it. I'm just saying it didn't work here. It would have been a better book without that. Okay. Those are these are my problems with the structure of the book, whatever. I don't think that these have to do with my feelings so much, but let me get into my feelings. And again, it's me, it's not the book. And here it is. There are certain genres that I can suspend disbelief with. Fantasy, magical realism, science fiction, any of those. Even some mystery I can. I have learned with thrillers, I cannot suspend disbelief. And this book called for a lot of suspension of disbelief. And a lot of domestic thrillers do. So it's not just this one. So what I'm trying to get to is that I need to be really, really selective with my domestic thrillers. I have read domestic thrillers where you didn't have to do that. And that was sort of the thrill of it. Everything was so normal. And then whatever. This is like, things are not normal. And I get that's the genre. That is kind of what's going on with it. As I said before, this was kind of a girl book, like The Girl on the Train, Gone Girl. Although Gone Girl, I will say, is one that I think did work, and it's been a long time since I've read it. And also it was one of the first ones. So, but still, I think that was one where it's like a little bit more, didn't have to suspend that much disbelief, if I remember correctly. But I'm kind of sick of the girl trends. I'm really tired of reading these thrillers where the women are alcoholic or sex addicted or mentally ill, whatever, and they're unreliable narrators. I don't think that's necessary. I think that's a trend that's gone its way. I'm sorry, I'm looking at my time here because I have to deliver cookies to someone. And this falls into that. I know there are people who like that, and that is fine. I'm saying that is not for me. But this book, I was like, this is just so ridiculous. It is so ridiculous. And I know that's what people, I'm not saying people like ridiculousness, but they like that sort of high octane, really, really twisty sort of thing. And I like the sort of quiet, more psychological. So yes, I gave this a 1-star book. I felt like I was toying between 2 stars and 1 stars because so much of my issue with this book was me, not the book. But again, my definition of a 1-star book is I wish I had DNF'd it, and I wish I had DNF'd this. So it had to be a 1-star, but there you go. I went back when I logged in and everything. I went to see what other people said. And there are a lot of people, booktubers and bookstagrammers who read this book and who I usually agree with and have, whatever, who gave it really high ratings. So again, it's me, it's not the book. Another book this happened with was The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz that I know a lot of people really liked. And I was like, that was another 1-star book for me. But yes, so I'm thankful I read this book, even though I really didn't enjoy it. I will still read Alyssa Cole because I think she's a great writer, but I probably would read her romance, not her thrillers. But I am thankful I read it because I learned something about myself with this. And I know those sorts of thrillers, those sorts of domestic thrillers, I need to be really careful about. The problem, of course, is you can't really know if someone gives you a domestic thriller, if it's going to be like this kind, or it's going to be that other bucket where it's really psychological and you don't have to do that huge suspension of disbelief. You don't really know that unless you read the book or someone spoils it for you. So I understand that is a problem for me, but there you go. That was my thought on that. So yeah, those are the 4 books. I had hoped to have more. As luck would have it, I will probably finish at least 1 book today. I'm almost done with Much Ado About Nothing. And yes, so you'll see that next week. But yeah. So anyway, let me know if you're interested in the Voxer chats for either Searching for Sunday by Rachel Held Evans or Agnes Grey. Agnes Grey is the month of March, for March on the Moors. I had tentatively put Searching for Sunday starting on March 2nd, but I am flexible on that. If that day doesn't work for people, just let me know. I'll try to find something else that works. But let me know soon. And information down below about March on the Moors. I'm so excited. And yeah, that's what's going on. Thank you very much. This is a shorter video because, again, I have to go deliver some Girl Scout cookies, and I couldn't do that because I was not in good shape. Like, subscribe, join my Discord, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.